and welcome to the Motorsport Chat. I'm Natalie Durkin.
I'm Liv.
Well, the Las Vegas Grand Prix definitely brought the entertainment when Max Verstappen took his 18th win of the season in Sin City, equaling Sebastian Vettel's all-time win record of 53, putting him level with Vettel's third place on the F1's all-time list of winners.
Coming out of the Grand Prix weekend, Scuderia Ferrari are to have private conversations for compensation following the damage on Carlos Sainz's Ferrari after a metal water value grid on the track lifted when he drove over it. We'll be chatting more about this later on.
F1 drivers have called to move the Las Vegas Grand Prix on the calendar as it is too close to the season finale in Abu Dhabi. With races being on different sides of the world, the drivers want to change the order of the calendar as the drivers and team members need the time to adjust.
AlphaTauri is set to announce their new name after two new American-based sponsors join. Rumours say Racing Bulls could be the new name, with the images of the name with trademark purchases being released.
Misano Circuit in Italy will host the doubleheader for Formula E in the 2023 and 24 season. The decision to leave Rome came after a substantial multi-car crash in this year's race, with the Gen 3 machine deemed too fast for the current layout.
Mick Schumacher has signed for Alpine's endurance team for the FIA World Endurance Championship for 2024. He will remain as reserve driver for Mercedes F1 teams whilst driving for Alpine.
Also in the endurance world, yesterday it was announced that Kubica will join AF course for 2024 and is set to campaign at the wheel of a third Ferrari 499P Le Mans hypercar.
Wales will host a round of the 2024 European Rally Championship following confirmation for Rally Ceredigion will join the 8-round schedule.
CBS is planning a work-based comedy show with Haas Formula One team principal Gunther Steiner. This is very exciting news and I think fans would love to see this. So, the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
Yep.
It's one to remember. It was different. I don't think there's a word for it to describe what that race was like.
It was crazy.
They really tried to make the race as entertaining as possible. And I think in some ways that took away from the race in itself. Verstappen said this.
Yeah, it's like a show, really, isn't it? Rather than a race, rather than like a sporting event, it is a show.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think a lot of fans were surprised at how much they actually did end up enjoying the race because considering the circuit was quite an odd layout compared to what we typically see. It's got the long straight on the strip, which I have to say, watching live was amazing to see. It was such a cool venue. And I think it brought better racing than we all expected with the strip.
Definitely.
Verstappen didn't dominate as much as I thought he would at this track. I thought we'd see him with the biggest gap.
Yeah, racing off. Yeah, literally, like every other race, it was different, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the race start, there was a bit of sort of a collision with Verstappen and Leclerc.
Yeah,
Verstappen pushed Leclerc off.
He did.
What are your takes on this situation?
Well, when I watched it live, I thought it was like Max hadn't done really, because I couldn't really see who had the racing line. But then when we watched it back the other day, I think Leclerc was a bit more ahead into the
I mean, I think he definitely pushed him off. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like Leclerc was ahead at the apex of the corner, and Verstappen went straight into he just went straight on. Which, thing is, would you say the penalty was fair at 5 seconds? Because
it doesn't exactly touch the sides for Max, does it?
It really doesn't.
Because he can just get way, way, way ahead, and it just doesn't really affect him as much as it would anybody else.
So some might say that it's a racing incident because it's a lap one incident, really, isn't it?
It is, it is. But I
suppose for the lead of the race, it's a bit different.
Yeah, but I think he probably should have. I don't know. It's difficult because even with, you can't say he should have got a 10-second penalty just because.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything.
So you think the penalty was fair, in a way?
I mean, in a way, but then it just doesn't really do much. It wasn't exact. It's like he just didn't even get a penalty because it just didn't really do anything.
There was a few other taps at the start with I think it was Hamilton and Alonso possibly, and Alonso got damage. Gasly, I think, possibly. There was a lot going on at the start. I think no one knew where to look because it was like obviously the front of the grid that was happening, and then there was stuff going on at the back.
Yeah,
so it was a lot to deal with. But throughout the race, we saw quite a few different events. At the beginning of the race, we saw Lando with quite a bad crash.
Yeah, it actually. Yeah, I was quite shocked when I saw it because it wasn't just like a easy, like a tap or anything. It was,
So essentially, we found out now from, I think it was Piastri's race engineer, has said that there was a bump on the track which sent Lando's car to bottom out and he lost control. Yeah. So essentially, there was no way of him being able to stop that crash.
No.
But it was a horrible crash. He was going like nearly at full speed straight into the barrier. Twice, I think he hit the barrier, possibly.
Yeah, because he hit. What
I think he hit the side of the straight.
A bit,
yeah.
Hit it and then just.
And then went off into the runoff.
Yeah.
You could hear on his radio after it that he was like quite winded and he was visibly a bit shaken from it.
Okay,
he was sent to the hospital after, but after checks he's okay, which is great to hear after a bad crash like that. You want to know that they're all right. So yeah, that was not great, but we also, after that is when we found out about Verstappen's penalty.
Yes.
And we saw quite a few pit under the safety car from that.
Didn't they? Yeah.
And after the safety car, it meant that Leclerc was close to Verstappen because from the start, Verstappen managed to get away because he was ahead. But then the safety car brought it closer and we saw someone overtake Verstappen.
We did.
Leclerc overtook Verstappen, which is...
Oh, the best.
I mean...
I love it.
Was it last race when Lando was in the DRS range?
Yeah.
He was close.
He was very, very close, putting that pressure on him, wasn't he?
Yeah. But he didn't quite get there, whereas Leclerc did.
He did.
And it was quite a good overtake, to be fair.
It was, yeah. It was... Yeah.
Entertaining.
Yeah.
So that was good to see. There was a collision with Piastri and Hamilton as well.
With the punctures.
Yeah.
Both got punctures.
Both ended up getting punctures. I think Piastri ended up worse out of the two.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think he struggled a bit to get back to the pits to get the tyre change, which was not great. There was also a collision with Verstappen and Russell. Yeah. So... Watching the race live, I personally thought like, oh my god, what did Verstappen like? Verstappen just ran into Russell.
I thought the exact same.
Watching it back, I think it was more of an even.
Yeah, it would have been difficult to do anything else.
Yeah,
I would think in that situation because it was just a lot. And I don't think it was really anybody's fault.
In my opinion, I think Verstappen would have been better just waiting till the next overtaking place. Yeah. I think it was a risky move that he went for, but it ended up with Russell getting quite substantial damage to the side of his chassis, which is not great, obviously, because it jeopardises his race slightly. And he ended up with the penalty, which
he did.
I wasn't entirely sure about because in my head I thought I don't think that was his fault.
No, I don't think any of them should have got a penalty because it's not like he was see what had really happened.
Yeah, I think Verstappen wasn't far enough ahead at the towards the apex for him to have got that corner, like being guaranteed that corner.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think Russell should have left him room because he was ahead for the whole straight essentially. So yeah, after that we also saw Piastri made it up to P3. He started from P19, the back of the grid.
Yeah, he was.
And to watch him climb through the grid, that's something I've noticed that he's really good at.
Really, really, really good.
Making his way through the field.
Yeah. It's nice to see, though.
Unfortunately, he didn't last very long.
No.
Strategy didn't play in his place with the other safety car. So Leclerc retook the lead on lap 36.
Yes.
Which is, I think it's nice to see a different race leader.
It is.
Usually when Verstappen pits, there's a different race leader. But I think it's refreshing to see the Ferrari with quite a lot of pace.
Yeah, and sort of being competitive, whereas throughout the past few races, they haven't really been showing us much, have they? Like, they haven't really been giving us a show or the entertainment that they, used to.
Definitely.
So it's nice.
So what would you say, how do you think Mercedes played out? Because we've seen Ferrari have had more pace towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think there was a glimpse of hope for Mercedes towards the summer break. There was they showed some pace, but we've not seen that pull through towards the end of the season. No. So, what are your thoughts on them heading into the last race of the season?
Because, like you said, they went through this sort of wave of having lots of pace, being on the podiums, being up in the points all the time.
Yeah.
But now they've just sort of simmered down, and they're just not really doing much for us, as viewers. It's different.
Yeah. So towards the middle and end of the race, the Alpines had a bit of a fight on track. Yeah. This is not the first time this has happened this season.
Frenchmen fighting.
Yeah. The Alpine drivers, I feel like the Alpine drivers have always had a bit of a trouble getting on together.
Definitely.
I think because Ocon and Gasly are so close in terms of their talent. I think they're very similar in their driving style.
Yeah.
Which is almost great for consistency in terms of the team.
Yeah.
But when it comes to them two on track together,
they clash, and
it's not great. We've seen them crash before, which isn't great.
We have.
Ocon's not got on with teammates in the past, as we saw with Alonso. So I don't know how to see it, but I wonder how they'll go throughout the rest of I don't know how they'll go into 2024 in terms of this team principle, what's going to happen with them.
Things changing within the team. Yeah, you just don't know, do you? Really?
Yeah.
But hopefully
there's going to be some rules put in place for them, because if they end up taking each other out, that's 2 cars gone for that team.
And they've, it's happened.
Done it to themselves.
Yeah, and
it's exciting to watch as a fan.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I doubt it's very good for the people working for Alpine.
Yeah, and the people paying to,
Definitely. So throughout the race, the strip, I mean, as we said before, it was great to watch. It was entertaining to see such an amazing sight.
Yeah.
It also brought some really good overtakes on the strip.
Oh, it did.
Because a lot of cars were getting the DRS and then zooming past, because they were past halfway through the strip. It was, but I wouldn't say it was boring, which I think a lot of people expected with such a long straight.
I know,
because it is
I
so long.
Thought it was just going to be a boring race. Nothing really happened.
Yeah.
Well,
it actually was
wrong.
The end of the race. I mean, that was spectacular. So we all knew Verstappen was going to win.
Yeah.
That was
as soon as he's, at the top, you just know, don't you?
Yeah. Verstappen was almost guaranteed to win. However, second place, that was kind of up for grabs. But the end of the race was so gripping as a fan. So Leclerc got past Perez, but they were neck and neck going towards the end of the race. He managed to get past with such a good overtake.
Yeah.
Heading towards the last few corners and then going towards the line. It wasn't quite a photo finish. He was quite a bit ahead, but it's still seeing two cars.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's so exciting.
Coming so close to the line together. That's what fans want to see. That's how people want to see the race leader win, really. Yeah. So hopefully that's something we'll see in the future. Yeah, but as for now, it's pretty much not going that way.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to touch on with this race weekend is how it was put on so much as a show with all the celebrities, the glamour, the glitz, it being Las Vegas. Verstappen had quite a lot to say about this.
He did.
About it being the show. We did say that before. Yeah. And he did call out how much they'd kind of taken away from the racing part of the circuit, and that they won't really focus in on making it good for the fans who want to watch the racing, who've come to watch neck and neck fighting for the championship. But then he kind of contradicted himself in a way, because at the end he was on the radio singing Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So it was he made himself look a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But what do you think is in store for the future of this Grand Prix? Do you think they're going to change any elements of it?
I don't know. I think probably maybe say that it needs to be prepared a bit better.
Yeah, there were quite a few delays.
Tracks and the delays and the cancellations of FP1. I think due
to Sainz's car. That's quite a big part of the weekend as well, because
it was.
This happened 7 minutes into free practice 1.
Yeah.
He rode over the grid, and it obviously, these cars have such powerful ground force.
Yeah, they're so.
That it can lift up a grid like this. But obviously that's not really his fault, and that's not the car's fault, because this is the new regulations. They're supposed to have the ground effect, the Venturi tunnels. So this is not really his fault. So Fred Vasseur is quite annoyed, because
I can see why,
Sainz got a penalty for having elements of his car changed, because this caused quite a lot of damage. So obviously Ferrari are quite annoyed, because they're having to pay and are penalised for something that isn't their fault. It's not in their hands. So what's your take on this? Because we've seen this in other tracks like Baku. The grid's lifting up isn't something new to F1, but with a track that's spent so much money on, and the amount of damage costs that they've had to pay for this car, because so much of it was damaged, do you think it's fair that...
No, not particularly. I think maybe... I don't think Ferrari should have been penalised for it, because it wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
And I think the FIA should have done these checks before the race week had even started. It should be, you know, safety, everything, just checked and fully ticked off, because you just don't want it to really happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's, especially for the fans, having to cancel parts of the race and have them having to go home. It's not really very fair.
Yeah, it was about 3 a.m, wasn't it? That fans were at the track until
late.
And then told to go home, so they couldn't even watch the second practice session that they'd stayed at the track for hours to watch.
Yeah, I think maybe a bit more, not organisation, but just a bit more what happens if this happens, like what do we do, a bit more of that sort of thing.
Yeah, so because obviously FP2, the fans couldn't watch it at the track.
Yeah.
They were given, was it $200 of...
Yeah, it was, $200.
To buy merch. And that was only for Friday ticket holders only. Weekend tickets got nothing. So do you think that's fair that that's all they got, considering they paid... These tickets were not cheap by any means.
We've spoken about this before.
We've spoken about this in past shows. They are very expensive. Yeah. We're talking $1,000 to $2,000. So for fans paying so much, do you think £200 in merchandise, which most fans will have anyway, do you think that's like justice really for the amount of money they've spent on this race?
No, I think it's quite sad. I think they should have got a refund for the days that were cancelled, or like just a bit more than just for merch. Fans have so much merch anyway. Yeah. £200, it's not enough to, you know, sort of...
With the amount they cost right now, you'd probably get a top and a cap at most anyway.
Yeah.
So not like you'd be getting a lot with $200.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it was a better weekend than fans predicted.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So what we can look forward to next year, I don't know. Obviously, we said before that the drivers want the race being moved on the calendar.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair because it's going to be a triple header next year, supposedly.
Yeah,
which is so tiring for the engineers and the drivers, obviously.
Yeah,
but where do you think that should place in the calendar next year instead?
Well, I think I don't mind where it is this year. I thought it was quite good, but at the start of a triple header is just a lot.
Yeah.
And because the race is at 3 a.m. with their time, it's all of the time zones, and I don't know, it's just a bit silly, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a city that never sleeps, but
some people
do need to sleep when you're on a different time zone.
Exactly.
That's going to make you exhausted.
Now, when it's been put on this year, I think it seemed all right. So
I think a big part of F1 is like the teams adjusting to the time zones. Something as a fan that you'd never really consider being an issue.
Yeah.
But obviously when they're travelling to different sides of the world, it would have a huge impact on the way you work and the way you perform. So that's definitely something that needs to be really looked into in terms of the calendar. But yeah, also Formula E going to Misano in Italy, which should be very exciting. I'm excited for this new season. We've got quite a few new drivers lined up. It should be challenging. Are you looking to go to any of the races? I'm going to try and convince her.
Yeah, I'd quite like to.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about going to the Monaco.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's difficult.
Yeah.
I would love to go. I'd love to go because it's racing. I'd watch anything.
Oh yeah,
racing.
I think one of the drawing points to Formula E for fans as well is the price difference between Formula E and Formula One.
Yeah,
you could go to 4 Formula E races and probably spend less than you would for a Formula One race, which is insane, really, isn't it?
It is madness because I think it's still just as exciting. It's definitely not boring.
Yeah, it's easy to watch as a fan also.
Oh,
so
definitely.
If F1 isn't as accessible for you, I would recommend watching Formula E because it's great racing side by side.
It's really, really, really exciting, entertaining.
The only issue is the cars are, well, let's just say interesting. We've talked about it a few times now. The fires.
Yeah.
The fire that was it Schwartzman? Robert Schwartzman did a test in one of the cars in Valencia, and his car caught on fire, it's scary.
It's not something you really want to think about when you're in a race car.
That the car can just catch in flames at any minute. Quite unreliable in terms of predicting what they're going to do, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. So, heading into Abu Dhabi, this weekend they're going to head there for the season finale at the Yas Marina circuit. So with 2 DRS zones, the circuit is 5.281 kilometres long and will last for 58 laps. The first Grand Prix was held here in 2009 and we have had some iconic races since. In 2021, we had the iconic race finish here at the Yas Marina circuit, where we saw Max Verstappen win his first World Championship by gaining the lead in the last lap after the safety car was brought out by a crash from Nicholas Latifi. Although some might say it was a controversial win, it was a fantastic race finish to such a heated season between Verstappen and Hamilton. So what can we expect this year? Well, if we're following the trajectory of the rest of the season so far, it's safe to say that unless there's an issue with Max Verstappen's Red Bull, that he is most likely going to take the top spot on the podium. With the slow speed corners across the track, we're hoping to see some exciting overtaking into turn 1 for the start of the Grand Prix. Heading into this weekend, there are just 4 points separating Mercedes and Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. So Liv, who do you think is going to take second place in the Constructors?
Wow, I'd love it to be Ferrari.
Really?
I'd love it. Well, I'm such a Ferrari girl.
Yeah.
I'm such a Ferrari girl. But yeah, I think Ferrari. I'd like it.
I think in terms of competitiveness, it looks like they're going to get ahead.
Yeah, I think they might.
How they've performed in the past few races.
Definitely.
So whether it'll be Leclerc or Sainz, I don't think Sainz's performances have been quite there.
I feel like he's sort of fallen back a bit, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. But also, there's a battle for fourth in the Drivers' Championship between Sainz, Fernando, Lando and Leclerc. In theory, it's going to be hard for Leclerc to get that fourth position because he is 12 points behind. Unless he won, I don't see him getting anything. But unless Verstappen crashed out, I think that's the only way he could win, really. But Sainz and Fernando are level on points with 200. And Lando is 5 points behind them with 195. So, who do you think is going to take fourth? That's quite a competitive going into the last race of the season.
Yeah, it's... I honestly don't know. Because it's such a... Yeah.
Do you think the Ferrari of Sainz will take that position with the pace of his car?
I don't think he will.
Do you think Fernando will challenge and try, if he gets ahead, defend? Because that's something he's so good at.
Yeah, he is brilliant at doing it.
Yeah.
But it just depends how the race goes. It could go in either of their ways.
So it's bizarre because the beginning of the season, these Aston Martins had so much pace and we all had so much hope. I thought that he would get P2 in the championship.
Yeah.
And he was getting consistent podiums.
He was.
He nearly won in Monaco. So I find it odd that throughout the season they've kind of lost that pace. I think towards the end they've picked it up slightly, but nowhere near how they were performing at the beginning.
Oh, no, I thought he was going to be like up in the runnings for the championship.
Yeah,
like it was really, really good start to the season. But it's just.
But I think considering that they've lost so much pace, I think he's still managed to get as much out of the car as possible, and I think that if he does manage to get ahead of people, he'll use that and defend as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I think he's done the best he could have done with the car he's been given. Stroll, what would you say? What would you say for Stroll's performance this season?
I mean, he's done okay.
Okay. I think okay is the word.
He hasn't done the best, but he hasn't done the worst.
The last few races, he hasn't actually done that badly.
He's done okay.
Las Vegas, I think it was P5.
Yeah.
So not that bad, actually.
Sort of like middle of the pack, just sort of switching it up a bit.
But he's not consistent.
No.
Been consistently at the top throughout the season, and nothing that's made you like look at him essentially and think, oh, he's definitely someone to look out for in terms of the midfield or
I feel like
battles.
You don't really, like when you're listening to the commentators, you don't really hear them mention Stroll's name. He's not doing anything exciting.
Yeah, that's very true. So McLaren are another team who have had quite an interesting season, really, with quite the opposite of Aston Martin, really. They started out the back of the field.
They did.
Awful. Like P19, P18, like at the back of the grid. They, through updates, they've managed to work their way through the field, get quite a few podiums. Piastri managed to get a win, which I know it was a sprint win, but
you still class
counts.
It, don't you? It still counts, exactly.
He's had quite a few high podiums. I think he's had P2, but I think Lando's had quite a lot of P2s as well.
He's had
7. Yeah. So
he's done well. Lando's done. So is Oscar though. Oscar for a rookie.
It's not something we thought we'd see.
No.
If you looked at the beginning of this season, the first race, Bahrain, you would not have expected them to do so well. They've fallen behind a bit, but I'm hoping that's because they are trying to work on the car for next year instead. Because they can do it. They've got the team.
100%.
I think they've invested so much into making this team work for them back in the MTC. So I think they're a team to look out for next year, I think. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I hope so anyway. I hope that they're going to be, you know, fighting for podiums.
Yeah. And the driver lineup. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think they work well together.
I really, really think they do. I thought, because they're both quite young.
Yeah.
And they're both, like, you know, just young lads, I thought that they might clash. And they might, a bit like Pierre and Esteban. I thought they'd sort of, I don't know, try and have too many battles and fight with each other, but they actually work really, really well.
I think it works because Piastri's so calm.
He is. He's
unexpectedly
very relaxed,
so
very
calm
relaxed
in that car,
yeah.
which works in a team where both drivers are so matched in talent. Yeah. I think that's what you need, someone who's very calm and doesn't mind like
he's
moving
quite
positions.
A laid-back driver.
Yeah.
He doesn't want
I
to
think
fight
he was the
or...
ideal second driver, other driver for McLaren. I say that because Norris was first in the team. But I think he's a really good addition to the team, and he's been such a good rookie to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Entertaining.
One of my favourites.
Battles with Verstappen.
Easily.
Who would have thought that?
I know.
That's been great to watch.
It's crazy. It's madness.
So the top, who are you saying for fourth? We've got Sainz, Fernando, Lando and Leclerc.
I'm just going to say Lando.
Lando, yeah.
Because I think
he can get the position. I think he does well here.
Yeah, exactly. He does. And I think if he just gets, you know, up within the top 10, I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine.
That's going to be great to see. So the Las Vegas Grand Prix was entertaining, and it also brought up quite a few funny memes.
It did.
So
we love our memes of the
for
week.
some reason, they went to the podium in a limo. We don't know why, but
no cool.
Or was it a Rolls Royce? Sorry,
yeah, no cool down room, just a Rolls Royce.
No cool down room, which we're a bit gutted because the podcast was moved this week to the Rolls Royce, but it brought us this fantastic meme of Perez looking terrified, which I think pretty much sums up this season. Him looking out the window disappointed and Max smiling in glee in the white jumpsuit. Also the fact that they've got different coloured jumpsuits on.
Yeah, I really don't.
Is a bit interesting because if you looked at that as a non-F1 fan, you would think that he was a Ferrari driver.
Yeah, yeah.
Wearing the red
that was
tracksuit.
Carlos, just chilling. Yeah.
I think it just pretty much sums up how he's felt this season, really. Yeah. There was also the funny clip of the man who was announcing the drivers on the grid.
Oh my!
Sunday. None of them knew what to do because he'd shout them on, and then they'd just kind of stand there like, Perez was like,
where do I go? Where do I go?
And it was just like bizarre to watch because you thought, what are they doing?
It's like when you think of F1, it's like a race, like you just show up, they race, but that was a show.
Bit of
Broadway, like.
Too much, really, for the drivers, I think.
It's a lot.
A little bit ridiculous. But heading into next week, I want to know, what are your predictions?
Okay. So,
for this weekend.
I'm just going to say it because I want him to get a win. I want Lando to win.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I want Lando. It's a bold.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting
bold one.
that.
I'd love Lando to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good track for McLaren. You know, who knows? He might get it. But
what about Piastri? Do you think he could get a 1-2, another 1-2 from McLaren?
I mean, it would be amazing if they could, but I just don't think it's something that will happen.
Yeah.
You never know. He might race amazing. You know, he might have a really good race, but realistically, I think it's going to be Max. And then maybe
P2.
Maybe a Ferrari.
Yeah.
After that, I think it'll, you know.
From what we've seen in the past few races, I think we'll see.
Or maybe even Checo. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. I think he had a bit of luck in Las Vegas, but
I think
we'll see. Let's hope he ends the season on a high.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll hope so anyway. But that's all we have time for on the Motorsport Chat today.
We'll be back next week for a Motorsport season roundup.
Thanks for watching.